Stephen Woolfe is, of course, the director of the Centre for Migration and Economic Prosperity. It's great to have you in the studio because there's so many people, Stephen, who are so annoyed about what the Prime Minister is doing. Just take us through this story today, because he's easing the rules for illegal migration. Citizenship applications will be allowed. A lot of people worried that illegal migrants will have votes eventually, and that will change the complexity of this country. And scientific age testing, that law is to be scrapped.
Yes, I mean, this is actually quite a disgraceful change in the policies that were only enacted very recently under what was the Illegal Migration Act, but it became a policy that was important to Conservatives and Rishi Sunak. And that was brought in really because there were deep concerns, as we've shown on this show many times, about the numbers of people coming across the boats claiming asylum, saying that they were children. Mm-hmm. That's now going, and that's wrong. And the opportunity to test them are going as well. The secondly is that it was banning people who were coming over on the boats from being able to claim asylum straight away and making them illegal and putting it into statute that it was doing so. But now he seems to be opening the door to allow them for citizenship to be able to come very, very quickly. And so this is sending out a message, a very strong message to the people smugglers, who we know roughly made about 5 million this month alone, that here is a very strong marketing tool for you. Tell your people, give you the money, we'll get them on the boats, and now this Keir Starmer government is going to allow them to be relatively fast-tracked to citizenship once their asylum claims have been approved. And here is the last point in the asylum. We knew that Rishi Sunak was allowing many asylum applications to go through very quickly. They changed the Home Office policies. This is happening quickly, so what you're now seeing is very many more people coming across on the boats, being granted asylum. Then they'll be able to vote just as they can when they get the citizenship.
Well, they need the citizenship first, though, don't they? They
yes,
need
absolutely.
to be able to be here for some years, and actually the law would have made it more difficult. But there are real concerns about this.
Oh, I think so. And what's the concern is that the stats that I was on a show this morning that was arguing about the 1 in 12 illegal migrants in London. Some are saying it is, some it's not. But what is clear is that there is a number that's nearly 1 million people in this country that are not meant to be allowed to stay here. They've either breached their visas or they've come over illegally. And why should they be able to have some form of rights in the future when they've got here illegally, claim asylum maybe, and then get into having votes or housing or hospitals or health ahead of everybody else? But secondly is the change and transformation of the population of this country. The ONS announced that they believe that there would be 5.2 million more people, mainly from immigration, by 2032. Our studies, I ran through the numbers, talked through on the show with Jonathan Porters, who is a government advisor for many years. I'm saying it's 6.9 million. What that means...
How do you come up with that figure?
Well, because what the estimate for the ONS is that they believe that net migration is going to go down from historical high of last year of 1 million down to 300,000 or 330,000. We've seen that because they're saying less people will want to come to this country for work. We've done a very minor tweak and just said it's only 525,000, which just is half of the number that we've got averaged over the last couple of years. If you keep those numbers going through, then by the time you get 2040, this country will have 80 million people. Bearing in mind that at the time of 1990s, we had 59 million people. This is a 30% increase. We can't afford it as a nation through taxation. We can't afford it in the amount of land that we have because we become a dense nation, house building, roads, schools, infrastructure. And all of that matters to people who are calling in because they're already seeing the vast changes to this country.
Yes, they are. Why do you think Labour is doing this? I'd love to have asked Yvette Cooper. We did ask her on the programme this morning. She was speaking to other programmes this morning. She didn't speak to us. Why do you think Labour's doing this?
Because they're wedded to a group of economists who believe that increasing population increases GDP. That's fine. Increase in GDP is the figure that she can use to say, look, we've got growth in this country. But there is significant research out there now saying that GNI, or gross national product per capita, that's the amount of money that we've got, GDP, in the country divided by the number of people, is declining Well, that's absolutely true. Everybody looks out the window and sees how much that they're now having to pay for additional costs in their lives, but they're also having to see that they're being charged more at council tax for the infrastructure of their councils, being charged more by the government in taxation to pay for the hospitals, the schools that are coming from huge numbers of people coming into this country. And I keep pointing now to research by the United Nations that has said that where you get large-scale mass migration into a country and that leads to a population boom, it will lead to amongst 4 or 5 very distinct issues of declining economy. Poverty will rise. Cost of living will rise. People's density and mental health issues will rise, and we're seeing that in cities. The cost of social services will rise, and ultimately that costs the country by being more fractious and less friendly to one another.
It's interesting, just in regard to a couple of the specifics of this, Stephen, we've seen that some of these were really plans in terms of the scientific age checks. They were never actually implemented, and some of the laws that Labour are repealing and changing through their big bill this week haven't actually been implemented yet. But we do know that in the first half of last year, more than 1,300 illegal immigrants were caught pretending to be minors after their cases were flagged by civil servants.
Absolutely. We know that there are large numbers of people who are claiming to be under the age of 18 and children that are actually not, because they know that by doing so it enhances their opportunity to get a positive asylum claim. Yeah. That is wrong. All that does is to say it thwarts the system. And it actually, those who are genuinely young people will suffer because of the impact that we have on the overall system as a whole by saying it fails. And we know it's failing. But what it also shows is 2 things. One is the lack of courage of the Conservative Party's policies to actually push this through. As many of us said, it's window dressing, which is why a party like Reform is being able to challenge them so strongly, and why you've got Robert Jenrick and Kemi Badenoch struggling to make any impact on people who are saying that we believe in now strengthening immigration issues. But it also shows really the weakness of the Labour Party, who are wedded to these economic ideas that bring in more and more people, that we need to fill our hospitals with people from places like Zimbabwe now and other countries in Africa, because they have done deals with Thailand and Philippines who are saying you're just taking too many of our people. And so we're going to increase the numbers of people here dramatically. But do we genuinely believe it's going to improve growth? I don't. I think it's actually going to cause the opposite.
Stephen, thank you. That's Stephen Woolfe, who's Director of the Centre for Migration and Economic Prosperity.